I think being curious gets you outside of your comfort zone, and it leads to innovation and problem solving that might not have been there before if you weren't curious about trying out something new. Welcome to the Waves Business Coaching Podcast, where you and your team can get aligned and thrive. This week on the podcast, I'm actually handing over the hosting mic to my wife, Addie, and she's going to interview me about my upcoming book, Master Your First Job: The Remarkable Path from First Day to First Promotion. This book comes out in just a few short weeks, and I wrote this book for first-time employees to have a proven path of how to get the most out of their first job. Along with the book, whenever you pre-order the book, you get the audiobook and a video summary of the book absolutely free. This is something that I put a lot of effort into to make sure you have the resources to actually learn from and apply the book. I myself hated reading growing up and learned better from audio and video. And so I wanted to make sure that my readers had the proper resources to actually learn from and apply the book. You can click the link in the episode description to pre-order the book now, and it'll come out in just a few short weeks. Let's dive into this episode with Addie hosting and interviewing me about my book, Master Your First Job. Addie, thank you so much for being back for another week of the podcast and interviewing me about the book.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. Anytime. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely.
So tell us again, your book. What's it about? Why'd you write it? It's coming out soon.
Yeah, we're about 3 weeks away from Master Your First Job coming out. So
Wow.
The book, Master Your First Job: The Remarkable Path from First Day to First Promotion. I wrote this book for young people who are about to work at or are working at their first job. I had a lot of resources as I climbed my career ladder for once I got into leadership, but didn't find a lot for when I was just a team member starting out at a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And so I wanted to create a resource for first-time employees that helped them get the most out of their first job and use their first job to advance their career. And so it walks down kind of my career path at Chick-fil-A and packs 10 years of learnings into a book so that you can get, a 10-year accelerator into what it's like, to get the most out of your first job and turn it into a career. And, it took me 10 years to figure it out, but I want you to figure it out in about a 3-hour read. So not a big ask for a read either, but that's my book. That's what it's about. And I'm really excited for it to come out here in the next few weeks.
I love it. Me too. So today we're talking about chapter 3, Dare to be Curious. So what led you to encourage young professionals to embrace curiosity as a key trait for their career success?
Yeah, curiosity is one of those things that my mom has always said I was a curious kid, and I loved asking why. And, I grew up hearing the phrase, curiosity killed the cat. And I just found that curiosity was different. I found that curiosity seemed to open new doors. And, I grew up a huge Disney fan, and, we went to Disney, and then I ended up becoming a nerd about it and studied Walt's life and, the history of the Imagineers. And at one point I wanted to be a Disney Imagineer and build the attractions and be the brains behind the magic. And I came across this quote from one of my favorite movies growing up, Meet the Robinsons. Underrated Disney
for sure.
movie.
It
Underrated. A big phrase in that movie is keep moving forward. And so it's about like an inventor family and they time travel and go to the future. But his big thing is, hey, failure's okay. We keep moving forward. And end of the movie was sweet because I didn't know until the end of the movie they show keep moving forward, and then it kind of fades into the bigger quote. And it's this quote from Walt Disney. It's, we keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. And I have seen, and I fully believe that doors are opened to people that are curious enough to open them.
Yeah.
And curiosity leads you down new paths. So why do I encourage young people to embrace curiosity as a key trait? Because I think new paths and new doors are opened up to people who are curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of talked about like a little segue into this next question. Why do you think many people are afraid to even be curious at work?
I think one, this is a lingering issue of you're afraid what people will think
Mhm.
of like, hey, I'm interested in this, and so I'm
Yeah.
afraid to speak up because people will think, oh, that's dumb that you're interested in this, or that's silly that you hear this, and so I think some curiosity is looked down upon because you're afraid of perception
Yeah, for sure.
of other people.
Mhm.
But I think too, it could be, okay, no one wants me to ask a question about this. Maybe if you're just asking the question of, hey, I'm interested in this, and it's like, hey, now's not the time, just do your job if you're at work, especially. And so
Yeah,
I think
wow.
it comes from internal fears. Obviously, that's what being afraid is, but of a lot of it is just the perception of other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely agree on that one. I'm like, I can think of maybe about 10 times that's happened to me.
That's right.
But yeah, so how does curiosity contribute to innovation and problem solving skills in the workplace?
Yeah. So I say it leads you down new paths and it opens new doors. Innovation is a key area of this. So I used to ask the question. I don't think this way anymore, but I worked for Chick-fil-A for a long time, and I would ask, "Hey, why does Chick-fil-A ever hire external candidates to be owner operators?" I thought Chick-fil-A is full of great people. At this point, I'm a young leader in the restaurant, thinking I'm going to go, be an owner operator of a Chick-fil-A franchise, and I'm like, man, there's so many of us that want this on the
Hmm.
inside. Why would Chick-fil-A ever hire someone from the outside? That doesn't make any sense to me when we have all these good people in here. Um, and someone explained it to me this way, that if you ask a room full of Chick-fil-A people for a solution to a problem, they're going to give you solutions A, B, and C, or a combination of those. You ask someone from the outside, they're going to give you solutions D, E, and F that we hadn't even thought about.
Yeah.
And so I think being curious gets you outside of your comfort zone, and it leads to innovation and problem solving that might not have been there before if you weren't curious about trying out something new.
Hmm. I like that answer a lot, especially because I kind of saw something underlying in that where it's like you were curious enough to ask that kind of risky or bold question, but then you had someone else who was kind enough to listen to you and not judge
Yep.
you and just be like, well, hey, here's actually an answer. So,
Yep.
curiosity, when done the right way and in a safe space, can lead
Yep.
to amazing things. So, glad you shared that.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So, um, why should individuals be willing to step out of their comfort zones and try new things to foster curiosity? What even would be a new thing to try for them?
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. It's going to lead you down a new path that you might not have known existed
Yeah.
or might not know that you liked. And so I'll give an example.
Yes.
Actually, I was going to say, my brother-in-law, your brother, grew up loving baseball, playing baseball, and went to college for it initially. And I forget what he was studying before. I don't even remember. It wasn't
like
memorable. I know what he's doing now. What was he studying before?
like sports management.
Sports management. There you go. And thought, I love sports. Want to, sports management sounds great. Um, Went and got a job at a golf course, country club, and just got super interested in like what the superintendent does. The superintendent at golf courses is who's in charge of making sure the golf course is in really good condition. So, I
Hmm.
mean, at the end of the day, it's as simple as they could say I grow grass for a living, and it's a lot more than that. Like
Yeah.
if you've played golf, you understand a lot goes into keeping golf courses in like playable conditions and excellent conditions. You and I got to go to the Masters this year and
So
see
cool.
just the best golf course in the world
Yeah.
and the immaculate landscape that they
The
pull off
perfection. Hmm.
is unbelievable. And
Yeah.
so many golf courses have such high standards of how they keep their playing surface, the grass, like up to a high standard. And your brother got really curious about what that would look like.
Hmm.
Him asking good questions to the right people at the right time led
Yeah.
to him changing schools, moving cities, and changing his entire career trajectory, all because he was curious about something.
Yeah.
And so, curiosity, when you're willing to step out of your comfort zone and not be afraid to ask those questions, it
Hmm.
really can lead to really positive life and career change that you didn't even know existed beforehand.
For sure. Even in his story, he had someone who, safe space,
Yep.
willing to go after hour or stay after hours to talk
Yep.
to him about grass. Sorry, I don't know all that goes into it. You're making a ton of money out there, so whatever. And I know we didn't talk about this beforehand and it's not in the notes, but what if someone doesn't have that safe space? Or what if someone is like really being judged and it's not just internal fears? What if it's like true? What do they do to foster curiosity?
I talk about this in the book. Find the right person.
Mm-hmm.
If you're with the wrong person, go down a different avenue. Go down a
Yeah.
new path. Find the right person. And to me, curiosity is really about asking questions. And I've heard there's no such thing as a bad question. And I disagree. I think there is a such thing as a bad question. and I talk about it in the book and the difference in good questions and bad questions. But if you find the right person and you ask them
Mm-hmm.
the right question at the right time,
Yeah.
I really do think it's going to work. So if you're getting a lot of pushback and judgment,
Mm-hmm.
go find a different person. Keep being curious. Don't stop the
Mm-hmm.
first time you get a closed door. Go find a new open door
Yeah.
and see what that one leads to.
Yeah. Someone's definitely willing to help for sure. But thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah.
You're so wise to me. So I'm like, what do you have to say about that?
Thanks.
But yeah, more in the book. Um, anyway, so something else that you discuss in the book is we talked about good questions, you know?
Oh, here we go. I didn't even mean to lead
Yeah,
into this
like
one.
great segue. So, uh, why is asking good questions critical to professional development?
People are busy. And if you're out here asking bad questions, even if you're trying to be curious and you're asking the wrong questions,
Wow, yeah.
people aren't going to be inclined to respond and take action.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they have the best intentions, the bottom line is people are busy. If you're listening to this, you're probably busy. Addie, you're busy. I'm busy. So, as nice as people, and I do want to believe that most people are nice and have good intentions and have a good heart, and you can go to them and ask a question. It's got to be a good question. So, what
Mm-hmm.
would be an example of a bad question? A bad question might be if you're in your brother's case and, he's like, I'm really interested in, you know, uh, landscape management and like I want to be a superintendent. Well, the right person to ask is probably the superintendent here who I have a relationship with. Sweet. I can go ask him. I got to find a good time, like maybe while he's not super busy. Sweet. Found a good time. Now is the key area of I have to ask a good question.
Mm-hmm.
If he just said like, "Hey, so like how was the grass stuff today?" It's like it's a bad question because
Yeah.
what are you really wanting to know? I've said that
Yeah, that's
before
it.
of
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, what are you really trying to ask? Like,
Don't
what
beat
are you
around
really
the
getting at?
bush. Yeah.
Don't beat around the bush. Ask a good question. Hey, I am really curious about your job in landscape management. Is there a good time for me to come shadow and to see what you're working on?"
Yeah.
That is a good question. Your intentions are clear. You're
Yeah.
showing curiosity. You're showing initiative, and you're asking a really good pointed question about, "Hey, I'm willing to put in some work to learn, but I really am curious about what you do, and I'd love to come see what you do."
Yeah. For
He's not
sure.
having to sit there and be like, "My day was good today. Weird question. Thanks for asking. Like, get out of here. I'm
Yeah.
busy." Hey, it's very pointed. It's to the point, and the response was again, he went to someone who ended up staying late, coming in early
Mm-hmm.
because your brother was interested, and now he's had a career change because of it. So, asking good questions versus bad questions is
Yeah.
critical in using curiosity as a tool for future career success.
Yes, for sure. How else does curiosity lead to discovering new passions and skills?
Again, like you don't know something until you try, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, growing up, I was definitely known as a picky eater. And I mean, like to my family, extended family, it's just like, oh, Jacob's picky. Well, turns out I just really hadn't tried really good other food. And so
Yeah.
as an adult, I start watching cooking shows and Gordon Ramsay and even beyond all the shtick of, Gordon being mean and aggressive and everything. He's actually a phenomenal chef that like has Michelin stars and like, so the shows are entertaining. I watch it more for like, I want to see excellent people cooking food and making dishes. And that's so cool to me. And so we
Yeah.
start watching these shows and it's like, I want to try that because it's stuff that I would have never thought about trying. I'm like, these people are internationally recognized for being good at
Mm-hmm.
creating flavors and putting stuff together to make something taste good. I'm like, while that one specific ingredient doesn't sound amazing to me, they've put it with this entire dish.
Yeah.
And it was, they have a Michelin star for it being like, this is my specialty and it's amazing. I'm like, okay, we need to go and try this really good food. Or let's try to make it at home. And so curiosity led me. I mean, number one, I love cooking now.
Mm-hmm.
And I love experimenting with new ingredients because I know that someone else has gone before me who's an expert and said, this with this is really good. And so
Yeah.
it's like onion. I'd hated onion growing up. I'll put onion in almost anything now because I know when it's mixed in, like the flavor of the onion is going to add sweetness to whatever dish I make. And I was missing out on sweetness in dishes like growing up. Am I ever going to eat raw onion? Absolutely not. I still won't to this day. I'm not going to do it. But if it's in something that's cooked and it adds sweetness to it, I'm so glad the onion was in the dish. I would have never known how good it was if
Right.
I didn't try. And I think that trying is also not blind faith. For me, again, structure.
Yeah.
We talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
I saw someone go before me and say, hey, I've done this way and it's really good. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you struggle with like just blindly trying something and daring to be curious, that's me too. Find to see if someone's done it before you and see if like, hey, this expert says
Right.
it's good, therefore it's worth trying and worth taking a risk in a sense.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it can definitely lead to new passions and skills, especially at work.
And also, everyone just needs to hear this that Jacob's never had guacamole before our first date. And
I did
so
not have guac. Yeah.
and
Avocado freaked me
so
out.
but he was curious, we're on our first date, and he's like excited and sure to impress her. Oh.
Yeah, I was about to say that was not curiosity. That was,
I know.
first date, and this girl that I'd like to have a relationship with is saying, try guac. And I'm like, whatever you say.
Yeah.
Um,
Great first date food. I don't know. We're married now, so I guess it worked out. But
and now I love avocado. I put it on like everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it worked out.
Yeah. All right. Well, last question for you. Share a personal experience where curiosity opened doors or led to unexpected opportunities in your career.
Yeah. So with Chick-fil-A, not you could argue, it's for sure. You and I would not have met had it not been for a curious question I asked. So at some point I had
Yeah. Yeah.
run out of opportunities at work as far as like, the restaurant where I worked at had I say older than me leadership team who wasn't going anywhere. And so as far as promotions goes, I had nowhere else to go moving up.
Yeah.
They can only pay you so much for your role. Like they couldn't just keep increasing pay. I'm capped at pay. And I began to get a little bit bored at work. And so again, ask bad questions. I'm like, oh, what does this person do? Could I take on some of that? Whatever. Not all of it was bad, but then I finally asked the right question to the right person, which was, are there opportunities with Chick-fil-A for me, like outside of the four walls of our restaurant?
Yeah.
And it was, oh, yes, there are. It's like, oh, what are those? And long story short, because of that question, I ended up finding a training program with Chick-fil-A where I got to work part-time for Chick-fil-A Inc. and be a grand opening trainer at restaurants all over the country. So I think I did 14 assignments in 11 states, or 11 assignments in 7 states, something like that. I
Yeah.
got to travel the country on Chick-fil-A's dime, see new cities, meet new people. As a part of that, I met some of our best friends, Gage Mercer, who was an LDP at the time, a program with Chick-fil-A, and he was kind of like my boss while we traveled. His girlfriend's name was Krista. She was a trainer, met her and got to know her, and that led to, you were Krista's best friend, as it turned out. And I'm a little annoyed that it took almost a year of knowing them for them to introduce me to you. That's beside the point. It all worked out in the end.
Yeah.
But again, it started with me being curious. Hey, I'm running out of opportunities. Are there opportunities beyond the four walls of this restaurant? Yes, there are. And I get to travel to states I'd never been to, visit sports stadiums I'd never been to, learned
Yeah.
about what careers with Chick-fil-A looked like outside of the four walls,
Mm-hmm.
met my wife. So it all started with me being curious and asking a good question to the right person at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So excited for the book to come out just a few short weeks.
Just a
Super
few
exciting.
weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Addie. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. A reminder, my new book, Master Your First Job, comes out in just a few weeks, and you can click the link in the episode description to pre-order the book right now. Along with the book, I'm giving away the audiobook and a video summary for free, so make sure you take advantage of those free resources that I've created for you and your team. If you're working at or about to work at your first job, I wrote this book for you. If you know someone or a person of influence of someone who is working at or about to work at their first job, I wrote this book for them, and I wrote it so that you can give it to them as a gift. This is the remarkable path from first day to first promotion, because the bottom line is the first job is just a job for most people. It's a box to check and nothing more. But everyone deserves a tool to help them get the most out of their first job and use it as a stepping stone and a resource for the rest of their career. That's what this book is, and I want to make sure that you or the person you know has the resources you need to thrive in your first job. So go ahead and click the link in the episode description, pre-order the book now. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode. Take care.